let's continue to move on. Let's consider the threat of substitutes, substitute products, and how that might undermine profitability within an industry. So industries are more profitable when substitute products are less of a threat. So what determines how much a substitute product is a threat? Well, the gold standard, the thing we really like to think about, is the cross-price elasticity of demand. We want that to be low. So a classic example of a high cross-price elasticity would be something like margarine and butter. Arguably, as you raise the price of margarine, you're going to increase the demand for butter. People will substitute from one product to another. An interesting question would be, what's the cross-price elasticity of demand for beer versus wine? If we raise the price of beer, how many people switched to drinking wine at that point? Here we see this graphically. So define cross-price elasticity as the ratio of the percent change in demand for one good given a 1% increase in price of another good. On the one extreme, we have perfectly, infinitely elastic demand. The idea here is that as we change the price just a little bit, we see massive shifts in demand. It's probably easiest to think about this with a slight slope to it. So if we increase the price just a little bit, we suddenly see all the demand disappear as people move to the substitute product. On the other extreme, on the right side, we have perfectly inelastic demand. And here is the situation where as we raise the price for one good, it has absolutely no impact on the demand for the other good. So a perfectly inelastic demand would be a more favorable situation here, as people aren't substituting away to other products. And then, of course, we have everything in between in terms of these trade-offs. Now, here's a little trick that I learned while I was a doctoral student of a way to remember this idea of elastic versus inelastic demand. It's an important concept when thinking about how much pricing power you might have within an industry. Elastic demand forms an E on the scale, and inelastic demand forms an I for inelastic. Hopefully you find that useful then when you're trying to think through. Horizontal means elastic, that's actually not good. Inelastic is preferable, the I that's formed here. The second thing to think of, beyond just the elasticity of demand between various substitute products, is the degree to which there are switching costs. Switching costs are the one-time costs consumers incur from switching from one product class to another. I used to teach at NYU, and while I was there, I'd always like to ask my students how many of them don't know how to drive. It wasn't uncommon to have a few students who grew up in New York City who never learned how to drive. They never needed to. They could always take public transportation and the like. Imagine them now traveling on a business trip to another city, let's say San Francisco, where they're debating whether to rent a car or to take a car service. Well, that rental car is a very high switching cost because they simply do not know how to drive. And the costs for them to learn how to drive are quite onerous. They might have to take lessons. They obviously have to get their license. High switching costs to switch from that one product class, car rental, to another, public transportation or car service and the like. We can think of lots of other industries where there might be these types of switching costs between one standard or one product class and another. Of course, there's others where the switching costs are negligible. I go back to my beer and wine case. If you're at a restaurant and you choose to order a wine or a beer, the switching costs are nothing, or negligible here. So something else to think about when thinking about the degree to which a substitute can be a potential threat.